All right, hey everybody. Anna Kruger here and Annalisa waving.
Hello.
All right, so I'm guessing some people are still getting on here. I actually can't see how many people are on here, I don't think. So if you're here, tell us so that we know that you're here. Type in and tell us where you're from, just because I'm curious. So we'll wait a minute and let more people hop on. While we're waiting, I'd love for you guys to type in and tell us what you want to gain from this hour. So Annalisa and I are investing an hour into you guys, and we have some ideas of what we're going to talk about. But honestly, big picture, it's what do you guys want to talk about? Because that's what we're here for, is for you guys. So if you, you may or may not see the chat option. If you go down to the bottom of the screen and hover, a little menu pops up and there's a little chat box right there. So if you go there, you can actually start typing in and asking questions. Cool, let me see what else in here. Okay, looks like we've like doubled in size in the last minute here. I see you, Matt. Hello. All right, so while you guys are typing, tell us where you're from and then what you want to gain from today's webinar, and we'll go ahead and get started. So Annalisa, why don't you tell everybody how we know each other, where we're from, and actually I'll introduce myself as well. So I'm Anna Kruger, and I'm from the ISA Mastermind group. So if you're on Facebook and you've not joined that group, and that's not how you know about this webinar, go ahead and join it. Join it. It's ISA Mastermind group, and that's the name of our Facebook group. And we really just chat all things lead gen in that group. It's become pretty active over the last couple years here. And then I also am a MAPS coach with Keller Williams MAPS Coaching, and more specifically, the ISA coaching program, which is really a lead conversion program. So we have people in there that don't have is. Today I coached several listing agents. It's really, if you want to get better at lead conversion, and if you talk to humans and you want them to become clients, it's a good program. So I'm a coach with that program, and Annalisa and I have worked together before. She was the listing agent that I used to set appointments for as an ISA, and she really killed the role. I mean, she's amazing at it. And so she's now a coach with us in the ISA coaching program as well. So Annalisa, tell us a little bit more about yourself, how long you've been in real estate, how did you get into real estate? Just tell everybody who you are.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. So I'm, like Anna said, Annalisa Latham. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, just a couple miles away from Anna. I have been in real estate, I guess, really since 2011, but not in sales until 2014. That is when I happened upon a Facebook post that Haro Setian had put up that he was looking for people. I had been in marketing, and I was like, of course he needs a marketer if they're growing like he says they are. And he actually ended up hiring me to do sales. So 2014 in May, I joined the Haro group. That's where I met Anna, who really helped propel my business forward, honestly, because she had been with the group, I'm not even sure how long, but was obviously doing very well at the role. So I came on to replace Haro in listings, and I did that full-time until 2016 when I had my first son. So I sold 78 homes my first full 12 months. The next year I was able to sell 83 homes and also take 3 months off for maternity leave. And then just through the course of doors being open, I have had the opportunity now to become a MAPS coach with the ISA coaching program, and have enjoyed working with Anna yet again.
Yeah, she's awesome. So I'm really glad to have you here today, Annalisa. So thanks for investing your time. And I just did the math real quick because I need a calculator to do math. And I did 83 homes divided by 9 months, because if you take 3 months off for maternity leave. So for those of you listening, that means that she sold between 9 and 10 homes a month. So how, think about that. That's a lot of clients that she's managing, and took 3 months off work in the middle of all of that. So and that's why I wanted her here on this call, because I saw firsthand how well she managed her calendar. Not that she was perfect at it, but I would say Annalisa, for the most part, she controlled her calendar. And it wasn't clients running over her, telling her, well, here's what I want to do, and if you want to work with me, this is, none of that. Annalisa had great rapport with her clients and was able to fit them into her schedule so she could be productive but still have a life outside of real estate and get a lot done. So in a minute, we're going to talk about her schedule and how she set that up. And the whole time, keep in mind, she sold an average of 9 to 10 houses a month that first full year in the industry. And I mean, really amazing. So we have a lot to learn from her. So Analeisa, why don't you tell us what is time blocking? So some people here probably know what that means and other people might not be sure. So tell us, what is time blocking?
Okay, awesome question. I mean, at the very base of it, I think I would describe it as being able to look at the week ahead, the month ahead, even the day ahead, and know exactly what I'm going to be doing almost every single minute of the day. So at any given time, I can pull up my calendar, I use a Google Calendar, and I can just be able to say, okay, this is what I have for this slot. This is what I have for the next hour and a half. And I've set that up previously. We'll talk about that a little bit and how that works. But just literally being able to know what's happening every hour of every day is what I would consider time blocking.
Well, and I'll also say, as the inside sales agent that would set appointments for Analeisa, it was super easy because I could pull up her calendar and without any question in my mind, I knew, okay, she either can do 2 o'clock today or 4 o'clock tomorrow. Which one of those can you commit to? And it was not a question at all in my mind of when is she free and does she need, time to prepare, because she even had in her schedule preparing for appointments. So it helped immensely, especially from the team perspective, because we knew exactly what was going on with Analeisa and her schedule. So Analeisa, why don't you tell us the big rocks? And then in a minute, we'll get into the nitty gritty of what your schedule actually looked like. But what are the big rocks? So if I'm a newer agent, or maybe I've been at this for a while and I'm terrible at time blocking, like big picture, how should I structure my day to have success like you did?
Okay, great question. I mean, as far as what it looked like for me, which is what I can speak to, the things that were the big rocks for me, from the beginning, I made sure that my family was going to be a priority for me. So that was a big rock. Obviously, lead generation has to be a big rock. Blah, blah, blah. You hear it all the time, but it's so true. If you don't lead generate, you got nobody to sit in front of to have appointments with. So that's a big rock as well. Scripting was another huge rock. If you don't have time to script in your day, then what are you saying to the people that you're sitting in front of? You probably do not sound very professional if you haven't learned the language of sales by practicing your scripts. As an agent, of course, you've got to have time for negotiations and contract work as well. So that is another thing that I would consider a rock to move forward. And of course, appointments. You've got to have room for appointments in your days, because if you're lead generating and you don't have time to meet with those leads, then what's the point? Right. So those, I think, would be the big rocks that I would have to say, along with as well making time for yourself, whether that's, meditating or going to the gym, or, getting up to be sure you're reading, and, furthering your education. I would say in any given day, that's a big rock that has to be there as well.
Yeah. So that sounds like a lot to do in one day. So everybody, if you're listening, grab some pen and paper, something to take notes on. And I'm actually going to share Analeisa's calendar with you guys. So this is actually, it doesn't have client names on there. We have a template of what her calendar looked like when she was still in the role. So let me share that with you. Can everybody see? You should see the calendar screen. You guys see that? I think Analeisa, if you can see it, everybody else can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so this is a pretty typical schedule of what Analeisa's calendar looked like. So why don't you walk us through and make it real simple? So I walk in the office, what happened?
Okay, great.
The whole day.
Okay, so walk in the office right before 8 o'clock. If there's nothing I needed to be in before then, 8 o'clock team meeting, that is a time for us to sit together. We usually are reading a book to further ourselves, our education. So that's what happens at 8, from 8 to 8:30. 8:30 to 9, you script. That's all you do. If you're not doing that, you're in trouble.
Let's pause for a minute too, because a lot of people say, well, how do I script? Like, what does that look like? And what does it sound like? So what does it mean to script? And hey guys, if you're on the line and you're really good at scripting, type in what you do too, and we can read out some of your answers here. So what does scripting look like? Successful.
Yeah, so that would be a time where you grab a teammate or you call up somebody that you have committed to a scripting appointment with. And usually what I would do is script what I had before me that day. So if I was going to be calling expireds, then literally we turn our backs to each other and start from ring, ring, hello, is this Anna? Hey, this is Analeisa. And we go all the way through a script. At the end of that, we give some feedback, and then you flip flop. So the other person does the ring, ring, hello type thing. So that, and again, scripting what you have in front of you for that day. If you're going to be doing FSBOs, then script FSBOs. If I was going to be doing contract negotiations and I knew something was going to be tough, then that's what I would need to script with a partner.
Yeah. And she said something, I'm not sure if you guys caught it, but we turn backs to each other. And the idea there is when I'm making phone calls, I can't see the person, right? So if we're role playing, actually looking at each other, it's not as authentic, because then I'm playing off her body language and her facial expressions. But on a call, I don't have that advantage. And so practice it however it is in real life. If you're practicing a listing presentation, practice it face to face, because that's face to face. If you're practicing phone calls, turn your backs to each other. The other thing I would say is make sure that you've got some realistic scenarios. So I've totally been guilty of this, so I'll call myself out. And I'll say, I quickly learned it wasn't effective. So, what are you looking for in a house? And somebody might say, I don't know, I want a particular kind of grass and maybe pink walls. And it's almost like you start making up all this really stupid stuff that nobody actually says in real life, right? And so it just turns into a bunch of ridiculousness. So now I'm all about having some fun. And I'm also all about being effective and making money. I'm kind of like this. I can have fun the rest of the day. And I mean, I can still have fun when I'm script practicing, but my goal isn't to be silly and throw up some really weird, just ridiculous things to try to be entertaining. The goal of scripting, if you're doing it right, it's probably actually pretty boring and repetitious, and you're practicing common things that you hear in real life over and over and over. So just wanted to stop there and help people know how to script. So it sounds like come in at 8 o'clock, from 8 to 8:30, the team has a meeting every day. 8:30 to 9, we're scripting, and then keep going. What happens?
Okay. Perfect. So 9 o'clock, everybody's on the phone. Everybody around you, you need to surround yourself with people who are doing what you're doing, and that should be lead generation. So 9 until at least 10:30, you go without a break, honestly, because once you get in the groove, you need to keep going. Take a quick break, maybe at 10:30, jump back on the phones until noon. And again, that's lead follow-up. Obviously you got to start with your hot leads first, your expireds, your for sale by owners. And then if there's time, you do lead follow-up during that time as well. So that is what the lead generation time block looks like. 12 o'clock, you break for lunch, but before you go to lunch, you got to enter your numbers for your accountability's sake. So we had a spreadsheet that everybody was expected to enter their numbers into, so we all could hold each other accountable. And it was a check to be sure you were doing what you should have been doing during that lead generation time.
Yeah. And let me pause for 1 second. Sometimes people, in my experience anyway as a coach, and you might have run into this as well, Analeisa, is it feels like tracking is just one of those things we have to do. And actually this week I had a client say, well, I enter my numbers, but I have no idea how to interpret them. And it was almost like a side comment, like, yeah, I do it because I know I'm supposed to, but it just goes into never, never land. And really the whole point of tracking, guys, it is for accountability, but I look at it like this is how we mathematically figure out how you reach your goals. So if you don't track your numbers, how do you know how many contacts it takes for you to get a closing? So like we know national average is 75 contacts will earn you a closing. And because that includes you set an appointment, whether or not they showed up, did they sign or did they not sign? So on average, 75 contacts will get you a closing. But what if you're more skilled than average? What if you're Analeisa and you want 11 closings a month or 9 closings a month? How can you mathematically do the math and figure out, okay, if I want that many closings per month, multiply that times how many contacts it takes to get a closing. So to make this really clear, I'm just taking out my calculator. If I know that I want 9 closings a month, and say for me, it's 75 contacts to get a closing, doing the math, 75 times 9 closings, I need to talk to 675 people in an entire month. As an ISA, that's actually quite doable. To talk to that many people in a month. So that's why we track, is to help you figure out how to hit your goal. It's not just so the team leader can look at it, and that's the only reason. It's really to empower you to hit your goal.
Yeah.
So you do that every single day. Okay, so lead gen, We entered our numbers.
Yep.
Now, what if you set an appointment in the middle of lead gen? I mean, do you stop at that point and do all the admin stuff and run the CMA? Or what do you do if it's like 9:30, you're in the middle of lead gen block and you just set an appointment?
I would write down as much as I knew I needed to remember that I was in danger of forgetting about that. If I was on the phone and I missed a detail that I knew I needed to have down on paper, I would take time to do that. But CMAs and stuff, that can wait. This is just a time to smile and dial. You gotta, get through your contacts, make the appropriate number during that time, and then reserve time later in the day for things like running CMAs.
Yeah. Well, and to speak to the ISAs listening, so Analeisa can really speak from the agent perspective, but ISA, same thing. So if I set an appointment, 9:30, lead gen goes till 12. So I don't want to interrupt. When you interrupt yourself, it can take 20 minutes to mentally get back on task. So think about it. You've only got maybe 2 to 3 hours of lead gen. Mm-hmm. If you lose 20 minutes every time you set an appointment, there goes all of your time, right? So what that looks like is write down the notes. And then at that 12 o'clock spot where it said enter numbers, as an ISA, I also looked at that as, okay, now let me do all the admin stuff related to the appointments I set. Entering numbers, if you're doing it right, should only take you maybe 30 seconds. You're just plugging in numbers real quick to a spreadsheet and then you're done. So that half-hour block can also be the admin stuff related to whatever you did. So don't stop mid-lead gen to deal with admin stuff. It will get you off course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great
Keep going.
Quick break for lunch at 12:30. Obviously that time could flex a little bit. If you were having a networking lunch, you might need more than 30 minutes, but 30 minutes is great. It was a great length for me. And then afternoon, you jump into your listing appointment time. I needed about 30 minutes before every appointment to prepare and feel like I was ready to meet with those people. They had given me their time and I was giving mine, and it needed to be well prepared for. So things like looking at the comps again, going over their motivation, asking the ISA any questions that I needed to have clarity on, because these people are walking in thinking our team knows them and I need to live up to that expectation. So that would be, again, 30 minutes before an appointment, and then jumping into the appointment, have the appointment with the folks. Usually that's going to last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions they had. We did do our listing appointments in-house, so that's something to consider there in the way my calendar is set up. Yeah, so that was wonderful.
Gosh, that could be an entire webinar in and of itself. So actually, yes. If you're on here and you want to have a webinar on how to move all of your appointments to the office, and by the way, buyer appointments too. Analeisa was a listing agent, but it's the same standard for the buyer side of the Haro group. Is we meet at the office. We're not driving around before we've had a consultation. So if you want to have a webinar on that in the future, type in right now, just say yes, and we'll know to put that in the docket for coming up here. Yeah. But actually, to hit the questions here real quick, Matt, I'll show you in just a second how do you reset a schedule. Maybe it's all screwed up right now. We'll talk through how do you eventually get onto the calendar you want. The spreadsheet, it was really team specific, but I have one I can share with you from the ISA coaching program. If you email me, mapscoachanna@gmail.com, I'll send you that one spreadsheet. Make sure you put in the email what you're emailing me for. I get emails from people all the time. Can you send it? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Tell me you want the spreadsheet. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Looks like we'll be doing one on in-office. Okay. Keep going. So you have your listing appointments, your appointment prep.
Yep.
How she was able to sell so many guys is the in-office appointments. So imagine how much time you get back if you're not driving to everybody's house.
Yes.
They're coming to you. Plus, what are the other benefits of an in-office appointment, Analeisa?
So many things. I mean, obviously the main one, the time saver, I think from a safety standpoint, it made me feel very comfortable in my role from the very beginning. But also you get the seller out of their emotional state, right? So when they're sitting around the house, they're looking at the pictures of their kids on the wall, thinking about the moment they brought their first little baby home from the hospital and stood on the front porch and took that picture. There's just a lot of emotion tied up into that. Plus it's a very subjective time because again, they have their walls around them. So getting them out of that subjectivity into an environment where you can literally just look at the economics of the situation by pulling up comps real live. That's another thing. You've got the tools and technology at your fingertips. Those would be the highlights of why that was so important for our success.
Yeah. And Matt has a good point. Consistency. You were in the same environment every single time, doing it the
Yes.
same way. The other thing is too, you can say, hey, let's introduce you to the rest of the team.
Yes.
So they can meet the listing coordinator and listing manager and everybody else and get to know the entire team, which also helps the agent because the client quickly realizes if I need help, I don't need to be calling Analeisa every time. You know, the listing manager is a different person I can call, and it just helps them see that. Also, we had a lot of awards around the office, which I have to think probably helped.
Good point.
Okay, so we have a good question in here so we have some questions about how do you price the house without seeing it. We'll save that for the end if we have time, because I want to keep this focused on time blocking since that's what the webinar is about. But if we have time at the end, we'll come back to it. And if we don't have time, we'll just layer that into the webinar about doing listing appointments in office. So we'll do that. Laura says, how do you have time or where do you reply to emails?
Great question. So if you'll remember at the beginning when I was starting at 8 o'clock and I said, if there's nothing I need to do before 8 o'clock, I'm totally a morning person. So getting into the office 7:30 was no issue for me. And that allowed me to clear out some of my emails. Also using the leverage from the team that I had, if it was something that my listing manager could respond to, I trusted her enough to literally just forward it on, and maybe a quick reply to the client depending on their emotional status or their needs, and say, hey, Carissa's going to get back with you later today on this. Wait for a reply from her. She's the best person to handle this question. So that those two things, like just fitting it in, and sometimes you'll finish an appointment early. Like not every listing appointment is going to take you 60 minutes. So you grab a few minutes at the end of that time to reply to emails. And then we're getting down there, but negotiation and contracts, again, if you don't have anything to fill that time with, then use that to reply to emails. Sometimes during lunch, even I would sit there and just, hey, I'm going to knock out a few of these things to be sure I'm giving really great customer service while I eat the lunch that I brought or that I ordered in.
Right. Yeah. And, for those of you, maybe you're listening and you're like, well, I don't have a team, so I'm the one that's responding to everything, but just make your appointment reflect that. So my guess would be if you're on your own, if you look here, Analeisa has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 spots in here for an appointment. My guess is that if you're an individual agent, first of all, if you're doing 9 appointments every single week by yourself, contact me and I will recruit you to be a coach. But second of all, my guess is you don't have as many appointments per week. So some of these spots on Analeisa's calendar that says listing appointment, you could totally turn that into check email and respond to people.
Very true.
And do that.
I would say too, another thing, sorry, Anna, to interrupt. A lot of times, and you don't see it reflected on this week, but a lot of times I would build in an hour or a half hour of what I just called white space. That was time for me to catch my breath. That was time for me to answer emails, have a conversation with an ISA or, a buyer's agent who were working both sides, just to have a little bit of breathing room in the day. So sometimes literally I would just do a half hour chunk that all it said was white space. And I knew that was my time to do what I needed, to handle what I needed to handle that the day had thrown at me.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So if you look here, most of it's pretty much the same. So to talk about the colors real quick, red is you can't move it. So it's just, it is what it is. It's a team meeting. The group calls, that would be our ISA coaching program. That's something that's not going to change. It's always that same time. Team meetings are always the same time. So that's what the red is. And when you're doing a time block, going back, I think, Matt, you were the one that asked this question. How do you get onto the calendar that you want if you're not currently there? So what you can do is actually, I know you can do this in Google. I imagine you can do this in other calendar forms too. But just create a blank calendar or print out a calendar if you have to. I've done that where I print out a week calendar. You can just Google a week calendar and print it out. And start dropping in the things that you can't move. Put those in first. After you put in the things that you can't move, then put in the next highest dollar producing activity. And if you notice here, it's green. So I know in my calendar, if it earns me money, I turn it green because I want to remember, hey, this earns me money. I have a client who doesn't like to call it lead gen. They're like, I don't know, it just sounds kind of like institutional or I don't know, lead gen. So they call it CEO groundwork. And it's because they want to be the CEO of their company. And they're like, well, if I'm ever going to be the CEO of a real estate company, I have groundwork to do, and that's lead gen. So for him, it's really energizing to call it CEO groundwork, because in his calendar, it's like a reminder, this activity is helping me become a CEO. You could call it vacation fund. I would probably call it like fund to buy a house on Lake Lure, because that's what I want to do. So that's what you can do there. You don't have to call it lead gen. Make it something that's energizing to you. And then I typically do things that are a break where I can take a breather. It's not business related in gray because it's just dark. It's like a hole where I can just have a little break. And then, everything else is yellow because that's what it is. But the color coding can actually really help as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's one thing on here we haven't talked about yet that we'll get to in just a second, which is the 411. Is there anything else on the basics of setting up a calendar that you want to talk about with everybody?
Not really. I mean, the other thing that I would say is, Anna, you know this, I'm super passionate about work-life balance. So, in the evening, I would block time too. This isn't just something that I leave at the office. But if I, date nights would get in there, those would get set at the beginning of the month. Those are things that I do not change. That's my meeting with my president that I am not willing to compromise on. And, even the weekends, like time with friends, those types of things, I would put on those on the calendar as well to be sure that I was, meeting my goals that I had there too.
Yeah. And actually I can attest to that. So the calendar I just showed you was like a rework of her real calendar that she used to have when she was still in the role. But I remember as an ISA, I could see when she had a date with Steven because it was in there. And I knew, don't put anything in that spot. I knew when she was working out. I knew a lot of stuff about it. But honestly, it was really helpful for me because I knew where not to put stuff. The other thing is maybe you don't want to put that much detail on your calendar, but you could just block it. Like on mine, I don't put where I'm going and who I'm with or whatnot, but I would put personal time. Don't put anything here. And that's what my calendar looks like today. So Christy has a good question. Hey, Christy. I see you don't have any listing appointments after 5:30. Did you do any afterwards? And what about weekends? So
awesome question. No, I would typically designate at least one evening every week or two, depending on the season that we're in, that I knew and my husband knew, my family knew, like this is when I have to work. And on the weekends, I would try to do every other weekend that I would have weekend appointments available, and then typically just Saturday mornings. And honestly, Anna was a boss at scripting that. As far as these are the times that she's got available, this is when she's going to be with family, and 9 times out of 10 people understand. And there were times where you have to make exceptions to that, and you have to take that on a case-by-case basis. You have to be flexible sometimes, but yes, typically they fit in the workday.
Yeah. And let's actually hit a script on that right now. So I can get really passionate about this. So I'm actually like sitting up in my chair. Okay. All right. You guys ready? All right. So this is the mindset. When I call my doctor, I don't say, hey, like, can you sacrifice time with your family so I can meet with you this week? I don't do that. We don't do that if we call a lawyer. Now, I do that in real estate, especially on the buyer side. We've got showings. There are things that occur, but you can still have control on your schedule, even if you're working a Saturday, right? You can say, I'm not working after 4:00 on Saturday. So you got to figure out what is most important to you and put that in your calendar first. So if time with your husband's important to you, put that in your calendar first. I know when I used to set appointments for Haro, our team owner, I knew every Saturday morning he had a date with his family. He went on a date with his wife, and then he took one of his kids out on a date every single Saturday. So I just knew appointments are not going to go in that spot, and there's nothing that can change that. Now, I didn't need to tell the client, he's going on a date, he can't be with you, but I would just say he has another commitment. There's another commitment in the calendar here. So here's what you do. So Analeisa, let's just say that we're at the end of a call. I'm setting an appointment with you, and I'm going to go through the scripting right now for this. Here's the cool thing, guys. This is recorded. I would just take a note in your notes to listen about 28 minutes in so you can come back, because I'm not going to go real slow because of time, but I know you can listen to the recording and listen starting at about 28 minutes in and get this again. So make note of that. So we're at the end of the call. I'm setting an appointment. Say that I'm putting you onto Haro's calendar, and I want you to just at first kind of be like, I don't know how I can fit that in, and we'll go from there. Okay. And this is the same script every time from memory. Okay, so Analeisa, our next step is for you to meet with Haro, And when you meet with him, you guys will do 3 things. The first thing is you're going to go back over motivation and pricing, make sure everything's on the same page. The second thing is you guys will interview each other. So you'll interview him, make sure you like him. He'll interview you, make sure it's a good fit and that everything makes sense. And then if everything looks good, we'll do the third step, which is sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions?
Nope, pretty clear.
Okay. By the way, guys, that makes it really easy for them to know, oh, I might sign paperwork, and it doesn't.
Oh, easy.
Yeah. So then Haro or Analeisa starts the appointment with the same thing. Hey, today we're going to do 3 things, and it's the same exact script. Okay, so back to the script. All right, Analeisa, let me put you on hold real quick and check the calendar and see where we can fit you in to help you move on to Albuquerque. I know it's really important to you, so hold on one second.
Okay.
Putting them on hold builds the idea that, wow, they're really busy, which actually builds value. It's the scarcity mindset. So let me put you on hold, check the calendar, even if you have it all day.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Analeisa, it looks like I can carve out time for you to meet with Haro, either 1 o'clock today or 3 o'clock tomorrow. Which one of those can you commit to?
Neither one of those really is great for me. Does he have anything maybe like Saturday morning?
Okay. Actually, he does not. He has another commitment at that time. However, what's the challenge with either 1 o'clock today or 3 o'clock tomorrow? Maybe we can figure something out.
It's just a difficult time for my kids. Honestly, it's nap time.
Okay. Yeah, totally hear that. Well, question for you. Is there an alternative where maybe somebody could watch the kids during nap time? Because that actually could be perfect for you to meet with us because you wouldn't have the distraction going on. So it's a backup person that could watch the kids say tomorrow at 3, freeing you up to meet with us.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I might be able to ask the neighbor. I can check on that. That's a good idea.
Okay. So here's what I'll do, Analeisa. I'm going to pencil you in for tomorrow at 3. How quickly can you check with your neighbor on that?
Well, it looks like she's home, so I can give her a buzz when we hang up, and then I could just text you. Does that work?
Yeah, that's completely fine. So once I get the text back, or you can call me, but once I hear back from you that she definitely can watch the kids, I'll put you down a magic marker.
Okay, that sounds great.
For you. Okay. Awesome. And remember, the reason we're meeting tomorrow is to help you get to Albuquerque to be closer to your family.
Yeah.
So the kids can see their grandparents while they're growing up. And that's really why we're meeting, Analeisa. Yeah, we're going to talk about house stuff, but really the big picture is we're meeting to help you move to Albuquerque to be closer to your family.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. I'll wait to get that text from you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. And that's how it goes, guys. Analeisa, is that how it used to go?
That is so how it used to go. I listened to you do that so many times.
I think people are like, what? That doesn't work? Yes, it works. It absolutely works. The other thing you can do, like that was pretty easy. It was nap time. But another common one would be, well, I work until 5. Well, guys, what happens is people in their brain block off all day until 5 because they just have in their head, I work until 5. But you can say something, and it's funny. They actually are almost like, I didn't think about that. You can say, well, hey, what about if you use it for your lunch break or something? You know, I don't care if you eat lunch while you're here with us. Would that work? And you can almost hear sometimes they're like, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. And then they figure it out and how to make it work. Another option would be if they're like, well, I work till 5, maybe the 4 o'clock spot is open. You can say, hey, Analeisa, if you told your boss that you have a goal of buying a home, do you think he would work with you and let you leave a little bit early tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And again, often you can hear them kind of like, I really just hadn't thought about that. Because again, they have it blocked off in their mind. So I look at it like this. And you'll start to tell if they really want to meet with you, you can hear it in their voice. Like I'll check with my boss, and if they call me back and they're like, I asked and he said no, but I really want to meet with you. I wish we could figure this out. You know, in that case, I might offer one of those times that's like an evening that Analeisa has blocked off. But as much as I am not going to budge at all until they've shown something. Because here's the thing, guys, I can't be more motivated to help them buy a house than they can be. Or to sell a house. So if I'm more motivated to rework things to help them and they're like, yeah, what can you do to cater me? I start wondering like, well, how serious are you about this? Right? And that actually builds value in working with you. Because again, it's the scarcity mindset. So I clearly just got really passionate about that. But I think it's because I'm assuming you're on this webinar because you want control of your schedule. You want it back. And that's how you get it back is you have a standard of this is when I'm free. You know, how can you work on your end, Mr. Seller or buyer, to fit into this spot? All right, perfect. Do you have anything to add to that, Annalisa, before we start talking about some other stuff here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, like Anna said, not budging is really key. And then the flexibility piece, if it needs to be there and you can tell that they're like, this is solid,
Yeah.
is key.
Yeah, and truthfully, most people can figure it out if you throw out enough options. Like, well, what would you do if you had a doctor's appointment? How would you fit that into your day? Because they relate to that.
Right.
Oh, well, I guess I would leave early. Okay, well, could you leave early for this? So usually it works. I find it's usually the people that are like the doctors or people like us coaches where like your schedule really is super rigid, but that usually comes out. You can tell if they're like, oh, I really want to make this work and I'm so sorry. You can tell. Simona says, what do you do if you start to sense a hesitation to the commitment? Especially if they seem scared. So I have an answer for that, but Annalisa, I'd like to hear your perspective first. So what do you do?
I mean, I think you call it out, you know, and ask about it. And, you know, depending if it's a D, you can just be like, okay, why are you hesitating? You know, and sometimes you need to be a little softer for other personality types. But it needs to be addressed because the hesitation there, does that mean they're not going to show up? And then you've saved an hour in your schedule for what? For nothing at that point.
Right. Well, and I think you can even just say to Annalisa's point something like, hey, I don't want to assume anything, but I'm sensing some hesitation on your voice. What's going on there? And some of the best conversations come out of asking that because they can say, no, I'm good. I'm just trying to figure out how to fit this in. And sometimes that's all it is. Other times they're like, well, I'm just kind of freaked out. You know, it's a big step. And then that actually gives you a better chance to get into rapport and say, well, that is exactly what we're here for. It would actually be kind of weird if you weren't a little freaked out. It's a big step. And that's exactly why we're going to meet. You know, I do this all the time. A line that my trainer told me when I hired him at the gym, my goal was to lose 100 pounds in 7 months. And that sounded absolutely overwhelming to me. And I remember he looked me dead in the eye and said, Anna, this is overwhelming to you, but what's overwhelming to you, to me, it's just another day at work. He's like, I've seen countless people lose 100 pounds. All you have to do is follow the system I give you and you'll be fine. And it honestly just calmed me down. So asking, you know, I sense a hesitation, what that's about, and it gives you an opportunity to revisit the motivation and remind them, well, I remember you said you wanted to move to Albuquerque so the grandkids could grow up near their grandparents, right? You know, okay, so isn't it worth us meeting even though you're nervous? Okay, yeah. And I think reminding them, meeting with me doesn't mean you're listing your house tomorrow. It's just a meeting to make a game plan. That's all it is. Cool. All right. I will stop being so passionate. All right, real quick for you ISAs, and then we're going to talk about the 411. So that was really the calendar for a listing agent or a buyer agent, similar idea. An ISA, really the main difference, and I'll go back and share the screen again real quick. Really the main difference for an ISA is you would have another 3-hour block in the afternoon for follow-up. So as an ISA, I look at the morning like my outbound calls. I'm looking specifically for sellers and I'm making outbound calls. The reason why, guys, is Harvard studied this, and I think this is actually a very weird fact, yet it's what they found in the study. But when people don't know your number, they're just more likely to pick up the phone before 11 o'clock. So if I'm going to be calling people that I've never talked to before, I want it to happen before 11 o'clock because I'm just going to statistically have better success. So as an ISA, I don't need to do my follow-ups and my new calls in the morning because I have all day. So my morning is going to be dedicated to the new people that I've never spoken to. And then in the afternoon, after lunch, you're going to see another 3-hour block, and that's going to be really focused on the follow-up calls. So, you know, hey, Annalisa, did you talk to the lender? What did he say? All right, great. Let's get you in here. So it's your second calls on out. I really should say your second conversation on out. So Matt, you had asked, well, I think it was you, Matt. I think you had said, how do you get onto a good schedule? So say, I know you can't raise your hand, but type in an X if you're like, yeah, my schedule's all jacked up. And I don't even know where to start. Type in and I'll give you guys some ideas. I'm picturing Matt with both hands in the air.
Yeah.
All right, so let's show you real quick. All right, so let's show you guys real quick what to do. And you'll see a goal calendar. If you look here, over here on the left-hand side, it actually says goal calendar. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I'm not sharing. I'm sorry. Hold on. Why can't you guys just read my mind? I mean, come on. Okay. So here's the actual calendar. And over here on the left-hand side, you'll see, regular calendar. Here's the listing agent calendar. I actually just one day said, you know what, let me create a goal calendar. So I had my calendar somewhere else that was just totally not at all energizing. In fact, true story, I almost got out of coaching altogether last summer because my schedule was driving me crazy. And I finally realized it's a schedule thing because I'm not time blocking well. Reworked my calendar and I've been fine ever since. So I was about to get out of the industry altogether and it was just because my schedule was out of control. So it makes me wonder how many of you are in that place where I don't want to do this anymore. How much could it be? I just need to get control of my schedule again. So what I did is I came here and you can hit add a calendar or create a calendar. If you have Google, it's really easy. You just come here and you add a calendar. And I called it goal calendar. And I blocked off all the things that I wanted. So probably the best day to look at would be here. Let's look at the Tuesday, or here, this is fine. Let's look at this day. So I said I wanted 5 people from 9 to 11, and then another 5 from 12 to 2:30. So I had this, and then I pulled up my actual calendar, which I won't do because I want to protect client names. But let's say that this is my actual calendar. Okay, the yellow is my actual calendar. I would just look at, okay, well, what's not lining up? To say that this listing appointment right here, let's say it was actually a coaching client, I would see like, okay, I've got to move that up here like this. And then that lines up. And I just started sliding things around my actual calendar until they fit into the same box as my goal calendar. Does that make sense? Analeisa, does that make sense to you as I explain it?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think that was an awesome explanation.
Okay, cool. So it's basically you take what you want and you create it. And I like doing that because if I look at my current schedule, it can feel hopeless. Like I don't know where to move anybody to. But if you create your goal calendar and just kind of forget your current calendar, and then I found it took about a month to get everybody reworked. So it's okay. I mean, some of you, depending on what you've got going on, might be able to start today, make a calendar tonight, and tomorrow get started. But if you've already got a bunch of stuff scheduled, we don't want to call listing and cancel it, right? So what you might do is, yeah, don't do that. Create your goal calendar and then maybe just make a goal for yourself of, okay, I'm going to be operating on this by the time May 15th gets here, and start sliding things around and fitting it until your goal calendar and your actual calendar look the same. Okay. That's how you do that. All right. So Analeisa, before we talk about the 411, because that does play into scheduling and all that stuff, anything else to say about a good calendar?
I don't think so. One of the things you were just saying reminded me, like one of the ways that I tried to look at my calendar was like my bank account. Because time is money, right? It's a commodity and it's something that I wasn't going to let somebody else control. And of course there's a time to be flexible, but at the end of the day, I set it to be what I wanted it to be. And it had to be that in order for me to hit my production goals, and also to stay sane. So just I don't remember exactly what it was that you phrased it, but that just made me think like you wouldn't let somebody else control your bank account, I don't think, unless you want me to, and I'll do that for you, of course. So think of your calendar the same way. That's something that you have control over. And the minute that it's out of control, you've got to flip that back to your hands.
Yeah. I never even thought about that, but would you let somebody else control your bank account? And guys, that's actually a big wake-up call, because if you're letting people step into your lead gen time, especially, you're letting people control your bank account. So you have to ask yourself, is checking email or even is checking Facebook more important than my bank account, right? So Analeisa, let's have a really real conversation here for a second. So I know coaching, this actually happened today. There's a very big limiting mindset around, but what about a contract, what about a repair request that comes in? I mean, I got to get back to it right away. Or what if a client calls me and they're just on the edge and they're about to flip out? Don't I need to call them back right away? What do I do? And there's this idea out there of we have to get back to people right away, or it's just an emergency. And it's just, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
How do you work around that? Because you sold over 80 homes your first year. Clearly you did something correct and you stuck to your schedule. So how did you do that?
First of all, you have to beat into your head, like Aro, beat into mind that there are no real estate emergencies. Like there just are not. House is on fire. Like that's never actually happened to me. I guess maybe that could be an emergency, but there are no real estate emergencies. And I think the other thing is, there were times my voicemail after hours said, if you're calling me after 6 o'clock, I'll get back to you the next business day. And that was fine because it was an expectation that was set. And did I pick up my phone in the evenings? Sometimes I did. And if there was something that looked urgent, a quick text to say, hey, look, I'm right in the middle of something, but I'm going to get back to you at this time. And it wasn't always perfect. I didn't always do great. Sometimes my husband would be like, throw that phone out the window. But those are things people like expectations. If they know when they're going to hear from you, even in the listing consult, I would say, if you call me in the morning, you're not going to get me. I'm looking for people to buy your house. And they knew that.
Well, and I think what you just said is key. So I want to say it again, just in case people zoned out for a second or missed it. The expectation was set in the consult. I'm not available until afternoon. And a more positive way to word that, I guess, than what I just said would be, I'm available, or my office hours are between noon and 6 o'clock. And in the morning, guys, people care about what's in it for them. I remember one time I told somebody, look, we're not available in the morning because we're actually looking for buyers for your house. So our office hours are from 12 to 6. And it's because in the morning, we're specifically looking for somebody to buy your house. You're making outbound phone calls. And she was like, oh, go get it, girl. She's like, you do your thing. And she was almost like, don't let me get in your way. And it was because she liked the idea and she understood what it did for her. Hey guys, our vendors know if you want a closing from the Haro Group, closings happen afternoon. If you schedule closings for us in the morning, we're not going to work with you anymore. It's an expectation with vendors. It's an expectation with everybody that we partner with. That is, and people get it because they don't want to interrupt our lead gen. Because if our closing attorney is interrupting our lead gen, they don't get as many closings either, right? So it's explaining to the people in your world, here's what you get by recognizing that in the morning, that time is blocked. And then also putting that in your voicemail, like Analeisa said. So I just really wanted to highlight that in case you zoned out for a second. That's a key point, is setting proper expectation with your clients. Matt says, how do you stay accountable to your schedule? Which actually the 411 will probably help with that in a second. But how do you stay accountable to your schedule from the beginning and trusting that it'll pay off? So what do you think, Analeisa?
I think what we're talking about right now, time blocking, the 411, these are proven systems. And so knowing that it's going to pay off at the beginning, you have to rely on other people's experience. So it worked for me. It worked for Anna. It worked for Haro. It probably worked for Diana. There's plenty of success stories out there. And I would say, how do you stay accountable? You have a coach. I think that's a great way to hone in on that. If you have an EA or, a buddy that you're at work with. There were times where I would walk up to somebody and be like, are you doing what's on your calendar right now? A little bit of tough love. So keying people in, like, this is really important to me. Can you be my accountability buddy here? I think are some good ideas. Maybe you have more to add to that, Anna.
I'm actually looking, I don't know if I have it here. But Analeisa can tell you because she saw it. You know what I'm about to say?
I know what you're about to say.
All right. So I used to have, so you guys will just have to pretend with me for a second. Pretend that this is a piece of yellow construction paper, okay? What I did to help me with the time block is I went around to all of the agents and I said, what would it mean to you to have more closings and why do you work in real estate? Like you could be working at Walmart or you could be working at, some other place. Why are you here? And what will it do for you to have more closings? So I wrote down their goals and it was stuff like, I want to buy a house. One guy was brand new. He's like, I'm tired of eating rice and beans. I want to take my wife out to a steak dinner. That was his immediate why. He just wanted to take his wife out to dinner. Another guy said, I really wanted to start a church and I need money to start a church. So I wrote their goals on my sheet. And it was for them and it was for me because it motivated me to realize if I get myself off track, it's not only hurting me. It's hurting Analeisa because she doesn't get as many appointments if I allow myself to get distracted. So understanding the agent's goals and the people around me fueled me to not get distracted. And I used to look at our listing manager and think, oh my gosh, it was almost like this burdensome thing, but in a good way, almost like a really good sense of responsibility Because I would look at the listing manager or closing coordinator and think, if I don't do my job, those ladies might not have work. So I better get back on the phone. So that really helped with the accountability. And so anyway, there was a yellow piece of construction paper stapled to a popsicle stick. It was real fancy, guys. But we were in one big room lead generating. I couldn't shut my door. So if Analeisa came up to me, which she didn't, she's pretty good about it. But if anybody came up to me, I literally would take the popsicle stick and the yellow sign and be like, I can't talk to you right now. And it was literally like their goals in front of their face. And it was also a big, like, it's their goals in front of my face too. I remember one time Jacob took the sign because I was distracting myself and he turned it around. You can get back on it. So I think that's a big thing, is getting clear. If this job to you is just about making dials and phone calls, it's not like whoop-de-doo. But if you can start connecting your work and why you're doing what you're doing to other people and their motivation and your motivation, it becomes a totally different ballgame. Real quick, Analeisa, you also mentioned getting a coach, and I want to mention this before we run out of time. So Analeisa is a coach. I'm a coach. We both coach with MAPS Coaching of Keller Williams, and we have an ISA coaching program. So Analeisa, tell people if they want to reach out to you, either just with some questions or maybe they're interested in the program, what's the best way to contact you?
Probably via email, and it's ajdlatham, LATHAM @gmail.com.
Okay, why don't you type it into the chat box for everybody in case they didn't have it ready to write down. Also, you can go to isamapscoaching.com, isamapscoaching.com. I'll type that in there too. Mapscoaching.com. And in the middle of the page, there's a gold button that says get started. And that doesn't go to like some weird place or whatever. That comes to me or Analeisa or Katie. She's another one of our coaches. She's been on webinars before, and you'll actually get a coach. So if you, I would say just contact Analeisa directly. And Matt, that is correct. Yeah, that's the correct email. Okay. And we'd be happy to talk with you about the program. Okay, so let's talk about one more tool before we go, and then we'll see what time's left for other questions. So one thing that helps with calendaring is actually the 411. I'm curious, how many of you know what the 411 is? Just type into the box either yes or no. Yes, I know what it is. Oh, Allie. Allie, do you coach with Analeisa? I did not know. I love Allie. Okay, so some people say yes. It looks like a good mixture of yes and no. So we're going to show you what the 411 is here real quick. Hold on. Got to hit the share screen button. And guys, this tool, personally, it helped me not only in business. I actually lost 100 pounds using this tool in the 7 months. And it wasn't the only tool. I worked out too. But this tool kept me on track. And I think of the 411 kind of like when you go bowling. Just stay with me. But just hang on. But when you go bowling, you know how you have the lane where the ball goes down the lane, right? And when you're a kid, you have the little bumpers and the side gutter thing. And it's to keep the ball from going too far off course. I think of the 411 kind of like that. It's am I saying the right thing? The bumpers?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
In the gutter.
Yeah.
But it's like this thing that keeps the ball from going into the gutter. And I literally picture the ball bouncing back and forth from side to side. So it doesn't mean that you're always exactly on track, but because there's a tool in place, if I do get off track, it's not drastic. It's a little bit off track. And then it bounces me back in the right direction. And that's what I think about with the 411. So let me show you, Christy, while I'm sharing this, it's Bobby Stevens. I'll connect you guys if you want. This is my trainer. Oops, I just shared the wrong thing. Hold on. I'm feeling I'm very, where's the 411? Okay, there it is. Okay, so 411. This is what the 411 looks like. And this is one that's an example for ISAs. So, you know, if you're a listing agent, yours is going to look different. But this is the basic gist. So Analeisa, why don't you just walk through CNN version? What is a 411 and talk through these categories real quick?
Great. Okay, so the 411, you've got four, now I'm going to blank on it. 4 weeks. Anna, can you just pick up there? I'm like,
actually, no, I'm blanking. Analeisa and I have been coaching all day, so give us a break, guys.
Yes.
I'm totally blanking on it as well. I know that the idea here, I always think of it like I have 4 categories.
Yes.
And you also have 4 weeks. So I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
But the idea is you take your goals and you break them down into categories.
Yes.
People are probably typing in with the
Yes. 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. Beautiful. Thank you, God. Anyway, this just allows you to look at the month ahead, look at the week ahead, and put in the big rocks that you've got to move forward. And this is then what you take to your calendar. So for the year, this person needs to set 405 appointments. You got to break that down per the month, which you can see in August, that means set 34 appointments. And then you break that down even further every single week. 9 appointments, 10 appointments if you didn't hit the goal from the first week, etc. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of those tools that I really would, if you don't know much about it and you want to, get in touch with either me or Analeisa, or go to the ISA coaching, isamapscoaching.com, and just say you want to talk to somebody. It's okay if you're not quite sure that you want to sign up for the program yet. If you just even want to have a consult with somebody to get some, just to get some help, you can do that. So the idea is you sit down, and usually you do this in October to plan for the next year. But if you've never done it, just do it today for the remainder of the year. That's fine. And you sit down and just think through, how much money do I want to make? And that would be the job goal. Or in personal, how much weight do I want to lose? Or how much weight do I want to gain? If maybe you're putting, you want to actually put on muscle. What kind of vacations do I want? So you basically sit down, and I find that the first line, which is annual goals, takes a while to think through, because it's tying into how much money do I want to make, and how many appointments do I need to set in an entire year to make that happen. All this comes from tracking. So it's hard to do your job and your business goals if you've never tracked. You're not it's not the end of the world if you haven't tracked. And start today, but you can read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and they have some general averages that you can borrow if you've never tracked. You can just borrow those averages for now. But basically you just set your goal. So let's do personal over here, just because it's nice and easy. So say that you have a goal of losing 60 pounds in a year. Well, if I take 60 and divide it by 12, now I'm down here to the monthly goal, which this example says August. Well, to lose 60 pounds in a year, that's kind of overwhelming sounding, right? But really in a month, that's just 5 pounds. If I lost 5 pounds in a month, that would add up to 60. So in your brain, it also takes what sounds overwhelming and makes it actually much more doable. So if I work off 5 pounds in a month, that already sounds more doable than I need to lose 60 pounds. But now if I break it down into weekly, it's just work off 1.25 pounds a month or a week, excuse me. That sounds totally doable. Even more doable than losing 5 pounds in a month. So let me switch back. If you go to Analeisa's calendar here, and let me share that back, you'll notice that on Fridays, it actually had a time block in there. Share screen. It actually had a time block in there. Go back to our calendar. That on Fridays, it actually says review 411. So that was a key piece in staying on track, is Friday mornings for an hour. And it was scheduled in at that time. To review the 411. So what that would look like is at that time, take a minute and pause, and you're actually going to slow down to speed up. So Analeisa, did you feel like you got more done because you slowed down for a second to ultimately?
Oh, so much. That honestly, it's kind of geeking out, but the Friday morning 411 review is one of my favorite times of the week.
Yeah.
To know what I needed to accomplish next week.
Yeah. And some of you are asking, can you share this? It actually, I leveraged my group, so I'm not sending 1,000 emails. So if you go to ISA Mastermind group in Facebook, go to the left-hand side under files. And that's where I pulled this from actually before the webinar. I just went to my group and pulled it out. So it's in there. But it's what you do is you look at it every single Friday. So for example, look at week 1 right here. It says my goal was Chip Ingram, which is a podcast, listen to it for 4 mornings, actually listen to 5. So I got a check mark. Work off 1.25 pounds, actual is 1. So I got an X. And if you guys notice, it actually filters down to the next week. That 0.25 pounds that was missing got added in to the next week. I can't just say, well, I didn't hit it last week, so oh well. If I don't ever make that up, I'm not going to hit 60 pounds within the year. I have to make up the 0.25 I didn't get last week. So now week 2, instead of saying lose 1.25, it says lose 1.5 because you filtered it. In an appointment world, it might say, if you look over here, week 1, set 9 appointments, actual was 8, so you get an X. Well, week 2 says set 10. Well, normally if everything went exactly right, it would be 9 week after week after week after week. But because I was one short last week, I actually have to make up one this week. So now it says set 10. So it's impossible to get very far off track if you look at this every single week. And that's why we wanted to show this to you guys. There's more of an explanation to this than we have time for, but if you go to ISA Mastermind group, go to videos, and I actually did a video walking people through the 411 in great detail, and the 411 template that I just showed you is in that group as well. So again, ISA Mastermind group, you could just go to search and type in 411, and you should get the video and the template to pop up. All right, cool. We're almost out of time. Anybody have any other questions as it relates to time blocking and taking back control of your schedule? And I'll just go ahead and say, Analeisa, we'll do a webinar on how to get people to come into the office and what that looks like.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions? What do you do to get motivated? Oh gosh, that's gonna be different for everybody. Yeah. But what would you say, Analeisa, is your go-to?
I think we did vision boards at the Haro group. So in front of my desk, I wish I had it. It's in my office here, but in front of my desk, I had a vision board. My husband was the center of it. We had the medical sign because I was working to put him through medical school. When I had my son, I put my son up there. So like it was right in front of me when I was on the call. If I was feeling down or whatever it was, all I had to do was look up and be like, these are my people. This is why I'm here. This is how I can get through today.
Yeah. And actually, here's a vision board. This was one from when I was in ISA, and it had my goals on there. I mean, what's cool is looking at it now, most of these things have come true or they're close to coming true. And even now, I'll flip this real quick. I don't know if you guys can see the board there above the lamp. But that's my current vision board. And I like it because I sit here when I coach and I can literally look right there and see it. So it's always right in front where I can see it. As an ISA, this was on the wall above my phone. And so if I'm looking at the phone thinking, I don't want to pick it up, literally all I had to do was shift my gaze up just a tad, and there was all my goals right there, like Analeisa said. Laura says, well, what do you do if you don't keep your block? Is it worth evaluating? So, okay, part of it, so let me share back the screen real quick. Say that maybe you have bold. Some of you guys are in bold right now, the class bold. So maybe that's on Wednesday in this spot right here. That tells me I need to slide this lead gen block somewhere. So maybe I'm gonna slide it over here to Saturday. Maybe I'm gonna slide some of this forward and not have as much of a break in between and just make that choice and slide some lead gen right here. Maybe I'll do a call night. So you do need to figure out how to fit it in, because if you picked that time block, it was for a reason, right? And I also look at big picture. So say that I'm in bold or something, and now I have a little less time than I usually do in a week. Well, what is my contact goal every week? Maybe instead of extending my hours, I just need to figure out how to get that amount of contacts in just in less time. So maybe instead of hand dialing, I'll use a dialer. I'll still get my contacts in, so I'm not going to sacrifice the activity, but I'll figure out a way to be more strategic about it. That's a quick answer. All right, we are out of time. If you would like to touch base with Analeisa, it's AJ, like George, no, not AJ, like Jeremy, D as in dog, Latham @gmail.com. And if you look in the chat box, it's in there. Or you can go to isamapscoaching.com. I am so glad this is the last thing of the day, because I think my brain is done. All right, yeah, Jordan, thanks. All right, share this with people. And also, if you want to be on our email list, we send out tips about twice a month. I'll email out a little video tip. If you would like to be on there, just email me, mapscoachanna @gmail.com, and I'll get you added to the email list. It's just a little tip, like a 3-minute video twice a month I send out. All right, bye guys. Thanks, Analeisa.
Thank you.